Hey, what's up guys, Tyrant back with another video, and Dragon Ball game fans, listen up, we need to talk about the recent dramatic showdown tournaments hosted by Bandai for Sparking Zero. If you've been following these events, you've probably seen the heated discussions and controversy around them, and trust me, I get it. These tournaments sparked a lot of heated debates. Some people enjoyed them, while others, not so much. But here's the thing, these tournaments, while not being perfect, were necessary. Why? Well, they showed exactly why the game in its state at the time couldn't really thrive unless they addressed some serious issues with its balance and the rules that govern competitive play. I feel like it's important to reflect and look back on these issues because I feel like there's been a lot of development since. I also feel like despite the rocky early launch, the game has potential to stick around, especially given the dev support in recent weeks. So what exactly happened? Okay, let's break it down for those of you that might have missed it. The dramatic showdown tournaments hosted by Bandai were hyped up as major events to showcase the competitive scene of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. They would hold a series of online qualifiers held for specific regions all around the world, culminating in an offline finals held at Dragon Ball Games Battle Hour, which is a big convention held once a year for all things Dragon Ball related. While some of these tournaments had everything you'd expect, high energy action and gameplay that showed off the incredible visuals and presentation present in Sparking Zero, others started to get kinda weird and a bit boring, quite frankly. We saw players using certain characters and strategies that were either overpowered or just completely broken. This led to some matches that were, frankly, more about exploiting the game's flaws than actual skill. And when that happens in a competitive environment, you get chaos. The community was divided, with some fans saying that tournaments didn't reflect the true spirit of the game, while others argued it was a wake-up call for Bandai to take a closer look at the balance issues. We can look specifically at the France tournament finals. Now, this situation was extremely controversial, with the players ultimately both being disqualified for alleged collusion and trolling on the livestream, to which I luckily had a front row seat for. Combined with the obvious backlash from the players, it just put a bad light on the game, and a lot of people really questioning if these events should have been introduced in the first place. Now, it wasn't all doom and gloom, and of all the regions showcased, I have to give a special shout out to a few of them, especially Italy, Japan and the UK. The Italian players especially put on an incredible performance of what I would say is the highest level Sparking Zero to date, with no funny business or BS strategies. Great job, gentlemen.
That was the best match of Sparking Zero I think all of us have ever seen.
So why was this such a big deal? Why all the drama? Well, at the heart of it, the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero community is very passionate. I understand being mad because a game you were looking forward to wasn't the exact way you wanted it to be, but at the same time you have to be realistic. I also think a lot of people have heavy nostalgia for the Budokai Tenkaichi series and remember it being like the greatest game in the entire world when they were kids, but really, these games were very limited even back then. Anyway, these tournaments weren't just some casual games, they were supposed to represent the pinnacle of competitive play, and not only that, add on to the fact that this game was hyped up as the biggest Dragon Ball game release of all time and scratched that nostalgia itch for many players. But here's the problem, the game as it stood during the events had some serious core balance issues. It has been patched now, but man, some of this was kinda tough to watch, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, every match used the team-based DP system present in the game, and you can't have that without the characters, so let's talk about that. Some of the fighters are just too powerful compared to others. You've probably seen that one player in a match who's literally unstoppable because they picked the right character. More specifically, the androids. In a game where timeout strategies are so effective, nobody can run away as well as these characters, and combined with the fact they can constantly swap in and out to stay healthy, these were serious issues that really started to show in these tournaments. Not only that, the fact that the time limit in every single match was 10 entire minutes, this became extremely difficult for viewers to spectate, not only because of the sheer length of the games, but also keeping track of how much health each character has and who is actually winning was very difficult. Because of these power imbalances, a lot of the matches ended up being predictable. Instead of seeing a wide variety of strategies and playstyles, we were seeing the same repetitive moves, the same top tier characters, and the same meta gameplay. If you don't have solid balance, the players have to rely on specific tactics, and the excitement of the game drops. So now onto why these tournaments were necessary. Now, before you start jumping to conclusions, let me make this clear. While the drama surrounding these tournaments was a mess, it was necessary. These tournaments acted as a wake-up call for Bandai, showing the community and the developers why things can't go on the way they are. These tournaments exposed the flaws in the system that would have remained hidden in casual play. And the main comment I keep seeing on all my videos is, oh, well then they should have just tested the game properly, then we wouldn't have these problems. Okay, what you have to imagine is they weren't even tasked with making a game built for competitive play. They were just making an accurate Dragon Ball game that can be played one-on-one. Now, when you have 180 plus characters with all different abilities and nuances and specific moves and strategies, of course some things may get overlooked, and I think stuff like the androids specifically may have just been a miscalculation on their part.
Don't worry on that one, dipshit.
This is why I'm not all for just immediately grabbing a pitchfork whenever something like this happens. You have to give them a little bit of time to balance the game after release. This happens with every fighting game, and I feel like a large majority of people that maybe experienced this with Sparking Zero didn't experience this with any other game in the past, you know, any other fighting game or competitive game in general. Like, this happens a lot with the first version of almost every fighting game, so, you know, I don't get why this is any different. Let me put it like this. First version of player versus player game comes out. Players discover bugs, imbalance, and exploits. Developers become aware of this and patch it out accordingly in future updates. Of course, this isn't to say that there won't be anything discovered in the future, or, you know, like this is an ongoing thing. There's probably even more broken things in the game to be discovered, but we just don't know yet. Who knows? So yeah, sometimes you need tournaments like this to really highlight the issues in a game's balance. You can't expect a game to thrive in a competitive scene if there's no diversity in characters or strategies, or if players are forced to pick from a small group of overpowered options just to stay competitive. I mean, some games get that pass, but at this point, Bandai had a choice. They could either ignore the feedback, let the game stagnate and watch the player base wither, or they could make necessary changes. There were also talks amongst fans about restrictions or rule sets to keep things fair and fresh. A good starting point is character bans or limited use for certain overpowered characters and strategies, as we've seen in previous big tournaments like TNS. This would have just been a band-aid solution, however, and you have to imagine that license holders and Bandai themselves would be against character bans in official tournaments, as this would have been them admitting themselves on their own events that the game has serious issues in this environment, and, you know, shareholders and higher-ups would not have gone for that. Of course, as we know now, the real fix here is a patch. Bandai needed to go back to the drawing board and adjust the game's core mechanics, make a variety of characters viable, fix the insane combo loops, rework the meta so that strategy and skill, not just picking the OP characters, determines the outcome of the matches. A well-balanced game has a wider variety of characters, and that means more diverse strategies, which makes for a more exciting competitive scene, and that's what keeps players coming back for more. And it looks like that's what we got. At this point, it's clear to see that Bandai might have used the dramatic showdown events to see what specifically needed tweaking and fixing. And while usually not done on this scale, it's usually pretty common for developers to get data from online play or tournaments pretty early on in a fighting game's lifespan. Bandai have been very quick to fix the core issues that were displayed during these tournaments, and this is a great move for them to try and repair a good line of communication with fans. So what's next for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero? Hopefully Bandai takes this controversy as a signal that things need to change moving forward, and this absolutely cannot happen again. The community has spoken, and it's clear that these tournaments were a necessary experiment to highlight the game's weaknesses upon launch. The ball was in Bandai's court, and they delivered by addressing the balance issues, creating a more diverse competitive environment for players and potential future tournaments. We could see the dramatic showdown finals at Battle Hour to be one of the most exciting showcases at the event because of this, as the game is a lot more fun to watch post-patch. I do wish they would be a bit more proactive when it comes to showing some of the upcoming DLC, and hopefully at Battle Hour we get a sneak peek of what's to come. But until then, we just have to wait and see. What do you think? Should Bandai host more tournaments after this controversy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you guys so much for supporting my content this year. I might only put out a couple more videos before 2025, but it's been a really good year so far, guys. I kind of know what I need to work on moving forward with the channel and my content, but thank you guys so much for supporting me always, and I will see you in the next stream or video. Take care, everybody.